Hi calligraphers. Today we're going to talk about something very important in our calligraphy, which you are probably thinking about with the Christmas cards that we're going to be writing for the nursing home people. And that is, how do I make sure that it'll fit on my piece of paper? Now I'm going to show you with a commission piece that I'm doing now. It's for a wedding license, and I write them in calligraphy for newlyweds, and the minister then presents it to the newlyweds right after the service. It's really a nice little touch rather than just the typed up one. So I'm going to show you what's going to happen here, and I'm going to move the camera down so you can watch me work on how I'm going to space and practice my piece. Okay, so give me a second to change the camera here. Here's our work area. There we go. That ought to do it. Okay. This is the actual certificate. The paper is not the best, but if I use the right nib, it works very well. That means that a pointed pen has to be a broader pointed pen. It can't be very sharp. It will catch on the fibers in the paper. So what I'm going to do, and by the minister's request, I'm going to use a C4 nib. What, C4? Yes, he came over to my house and I showed him the different nibs that I can use, and he liked the look of the C4, especially for the names of the people, which will be here and here. The next thing I need to do is figure out how much space I have to work with. I have a gap of slightly over a ½ inch, and I don't want it to run into this "I certify that I joined together in marriage" part. So I'm going to use a ½ inch tall for the letters. And that means I'm going to use a little less than 1/3 of that, or about maybe between 1/8 and 3/16 of an inch for my minuscules. Okay? So now I'm going to get out a pencil and start marking off everything. I'm going to use my 2-meter engineering pencil because I've got one side of this ultra sharp. I have used a piece of sandpaper, actually I use an emery board, to sharpen it like a wedge, if you can see that here. And that makes a very sharp side to it. So off to the side, I'm going to put a mark at halfway between 1/8 and 3/16, and I'm going to put another mark up at 1/2, and then I'm going to put a mark about halfway between those two, and that's where my D's and T's go. And I'm going to do that the same over here, between 1/2 and 3/16, 1/2 at the top, and someplace in between for the D and the T, which is going to be just shy of 3/8 of an inch. Okay? So now I have a top, and I can draw the line very lightly. Then I will have a dashed line below, and that will be my minuscules. And this way I have structure to what I'm going to write. I'm not trying to wing it. This is an art form that requires a lot of planning, the old calligraphy here. There we go. Let's see if you can see those lines. They're very thin, very thin. But now I have this started. And that means on my practice sheet, I can do the same. I will draw these lines much deeper so that you can see them in action. Okay? Right. I'm going to close that door because somebody's outside. There we go. So I will draw a little bit darker on these lines so that I can see them better for practice. I don't want to do them darker on the regular piece because I want to be able to erase them so that the customer doesn't see them. So now that I have done my paper, and here are the lines. Now that I've done the paper, let's try a sample. I will start just with no, I'm not going to start with my regular ink. I'm going to be doing this in my waterproof ink, so practice the way you're going to fight, is what we used to say in naval aviation. In other words, you don't want to practice with things you're not going to use on the real thing. So I'm going to use the same ink that I would use, and the first name is Aaron. Now over here on the side, I can make little lines like that. The ink flow is very good. So here is Aaron's first name. This is the same C4 that you all have been using. Watch the style on the way I make the letters. There's a lot of lifting that I see a lot of you all aren't doing. And the reason is I want the tines to reset to their ordinary position because I know how they behave there. I don't know how they behave when they're spread out. I don't want them coming back together again if I don't want them to be spread out. But this will give me an idea of the size and the shape of the person's name. And then, oh, they even said that they wanted to do a little flash on the C like this. So I am changing the way I write the letter based on what the customer wants. It's not a bad way to go. If you make the customer happy, they will come back over and over and over again. And this is about the 6th or 7th one that I've done for this person. There's the top of the T. And I'm seeing that the ink's getting a little thin. So I will stop it right there. So you see we got a word and a half. It's one advantage of C4. Because of the reservoir, we have a little more ink than we think we have. See how I put it into the middle there, in between the brass top plate? That's called the reservoir, and the tines. Constantine. So you can see this is not taking very long. I've done a lot of work with C4 over my life, so I'm very confident in my abilities with it. And here's the G that I love so much. You can really hear it scratching. Remember, good nibs are a little bit noisy. There we have it. Not bad, I think. Now, the important part. I want to measure it. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 6.5 inches long. So, on my regular copy, I now see that I have a line that is a bit over 8 inches long. So I will find the middle of that, which is right here, And 6.5 is roughly 3.25, so I'll go a little bit more than 3 inches on each side. And I've made a little mark there, and these marks, I'm going to zoom in here for you. Here we have this mark is the left side, that's where I start. There's the center line mark, and there's the ending mark. So I now have the area that I can work with within this line. It'll start here and stop there at those 2 marks. And that corresponds to that person's name. I can then put it on the paper and see how it lines up. See there? Yeah. Here we are. Now, it looks like it's off kilter, but you can see we have and on over here. That uses up some of what we call the gutter. So now I have got my paper set up. This is the same thing that you're going to be doing when you work upon your Christmas cards for the nursing home people, okay? So I hope that little example shows you what you do. We've made a very good, as close as we can get, example of what we're going to use on the paper. We measure it, and then we can center it on the paper. And that's what you'll be doing with Mary and Christmas. Remember, Mary is going to go off to one side, Christmas is to the other. Before you put them on a piece of paper, you need to practice them and measure them so that you can see how it's going to look, and then you can recreate that on the card, and they'll like it. Okay, folks? So I hope this helped out. Do your copy best you can, measure it, and then you know the spacing on your actual document. So you do everything before you do everything. It'll make your final copy a lot better, all right? Okay, keep practicing, and I will see you after Thanksgiving. I know that COVID has really messed us up, but it's okay. We're resilient, we're Christian, we can handle this, right? All right, everybody, keep practicing, and I look forward to working with Christmas cards with you soon, okay? Bye-bye.